What was supposed to be a sacred rite of passage for young Prince George has spiraled into the center of a royal firestorm. Cameras were kept at bay. No formal statement was released, but whispers from inside the palace confirm. Prince William made an unthinkable move, blocking Prince Andrew from attending his own nephew's confirmation ceremony. Why now? Why so public? Before we go deeper into what this really means for the royal family, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss a single update. The confirmation of Prince George was meant to be a moment of unity, grace, and quiet symbolism. A deeply spiritual ceremony grounded in centuries of royal tradition, it marked the future king's first public step into the faith that has long defined the monarchy's moral compass. But beneath the hymns and ceremonial robes, something darker was brewing. Behind the stained glass windows and candlelit corridors of Windsor, a decision had already been made, one that would not only define this event, but shake the foundation of royal protocol. Prince Andrew, once a central figure at such occasions, was nowhere to be seen. For those watching carefully, his absence wasn't just conspicuous, it was calculated. Palace insiders suggest the guest list had been meticulously crafted by William and Catherine themselves, with surgical precision, every name vetted, every invitation personal. Yet Andrew's name was allegedly struck out with finality. It wasn't an oversight. It wasn't an administrative slip. It was a deliberate exclusion, and when inquiries were made from within Andrew's camp, they were reportedly met with cold silence. Sources close to the palace suggest that Andrew's aides received a formal disinvitation, a move so rare it sent tremors through royal circles. The message was clear: you are no longer welcome, even as family. That decision sent shockwaves not just through the House of Windsor, but across aristocratic networks tied closely to the royal household. Buckingham Palace, faced with a barrage of questions from both reporters and loyal insiders, offered no comment. The press office, normally swift, with statements of unity or damage control, remained eerily quiet. It was this silence that confirmed the whispers. Something extraordinary had happened behind those chapel doors. And while Prince Andrew retreated to Royal Lodge, his face never seen that day, Prince William emerged from the ceremony's private exit, face grim, jaw visibly clenched. When asked by a waiting reporter about Andrew's absence, William offered no words, just a sharp glance before stepping into the waiting car with Catherine and George. It was a silence that spoke louder than any public statement could. The message was unmistakable. William had drawn a line in the sand. But what triggered this last-minute royal ban? To understand the storm that erupted at George's ceremony, we must look at the cold tensions that have long simmered behind gilded doors. He was once the Queen's favourite son, but now, Prince Andrew walks the grounds of Windsor as a shadow of his former self. Years of controversy have not only eroded public trust, but created deep fractures within the royal family. And it seems Prince William has had enough. The fall of Prince Andrew did not happen overnight. It was a slow, unravelling descent marked by scandal, silence, and shame. From his high-profile ties with figures that would later become internationally disgraced, to his disastrous interview that sent Buckingham Palace into damage control mode, Andrew's image went from that of a decorated naval officer to a liability the monarchy could no longer afford to defend. In the days following the public outcry, there were frantic meetings behind closed doors. Royal aides scrambled to shield the crown's dignity, while the press dissected every misstep, and public sentiment grew colder by the hour. The Queen, deeply loyal to her son, resisted at first, but eventually she relented to mounting pressure and stripped Andrew of his military titles and royal patronages, a move that signalled even maternal love had its limits when the crown's survival was at stake. But inside palace walls, the real pressure didn't come from the press, it came from within. It was Prince William, not yet king but already positioned as the future of the monarchy, who allegedly demanded action. Those close to him say he was appalled by the damage Andrew had done to the institution he would one day lead. He wasn't just worried about the optics, he was furious about the betrayal. The monarchy was already bruised by years of internal drama, and William had become increasingly vocal about maintaining a moral firewall between the royal image and any trace of scandal. He wasn't willing to play the silent diplomat anymore. The heir had found his voice, and it was uncompromising. Palace insiders speak of a chilling moment, a private exchange between William and senior courtiers, where he reportedly said, "If we pretend this never happened, we've already lost." It was more than a remark. It was a declaration. And from that point on, a quiet campaign began. One that would push Andrew out of the picture, not just in the press, but within the royal structure itself. Invitations stopped arriving. Public appearances vanished. Doors once open to Andrew were now firmly shut. It wasn't exile by decree, it was something more surgical, more deliberate. Prince William wasn't just protecting his father's reign. He was carving the future monarchy in his own image, clean, principled, and unforgiving. The emotional toll on Queen Elizabeth was undeniable. While the public saw a stoic monarch, those closest to her spoke of a mother devastated by a choice she never wanted to make. She confided in only a handful of confidantes, and those final years were reportedly clouded by sorrow over what had become of her once favoured son. But she knew the weight of legacy. And when William took that burden into his own hands, she didn't stop him. Perhaps she saw in him the resolve she had once carried herself. As the Queen's health declined, William's influence only grew. By the time of her passing, his grip on royal affairs had tightened. He wasn't waiting for the crown, he was already commanding the court. And when George's confirmation approached, William's stance on Andrew was not up for negotiation. Royal aides confirm he had drawn a line years earlier. Andrew would never again stand beside the family at sacred ceremonies. It wasn't about scandal alone. It was about protecting George's future and the moral clarity of the next generation's legacy. But this wasn't just about image, it was personal. The tension between William and Andrew had been festering for years, and it reached a boiling point in the weeks leading up to George's confirmation. Sources close to the palace confirm that Prince William issued a direct warning weeks before the event. "He's not welcome," he reportedly said. The message was clear, but Andrew didn't take it lightly. What followed was a bitter power struggle that exposed dangerous cracks in the royal hierarchy. What began as a private disagreement quickly evolved into a strategic standoff between two royal camps. Behind the scenes, tensions exploded as leaked messages between William's private secretary and Andrew's aides revealed the intensity of the rift. One message, chilling in its clarity, read, "The Prince of Wales has made his position unambiguous. This is not a request." Andrew, whose pride has long been bruised by his exile, refused to accept the ban quietly. Sources claim he launched a counter-effort, bypassing traditional communication channels and writing directly to King Charles in a handwritten note described as emotional, defensive, and pleading. But the note landed in the middle of a storm, already threatening to destabilize the royal inner circle. Inside Clarence House, the atmosphere reportedly turned combustible. Queen Camilla, ever the pragmatist, allegedly urged Charles to avoid public confrontation at all costs. Her advice was simple: neutralize the drama, keep it off the front pages, and preserve what little unity remained. But William wasn't interested in appeasement. He saw silence as surrender, and Catherine, known for her careful diplomacy, reportedly stood behind him with unwavering resolve. "This isn't just about family," she was overheard saying. "It's about what's right for George." The line wasn't just personal, it was a battle cry, and it echoed through the halls as Andrew doubled down on his insistence to be present. The tug-of-war reached a breaking point when members of the Royal Protection Service were suddenly caught in the crossfire. Conflicting orders, shifting schedules, and last-minute alerts created chaos. One longtime guard was quietly reassigned after allegedly refusing to follow instructions that would have allowed Andrew access to a secured area. Insiders say the guard had previously served on Andrew's security detail and was caught between personal loyalty and professional obligation. It was the clearest sign yet that this wasn't just a family disagreement, it was turning into a full-scale royal rupture. By this stage, every corner of the royal estate had taken a side. Aides at Kensington Palace operated like a war room, calculating the risk of every move. Clarence House, caught between a father's instinct to mediate and a monarch's duty to preserve the institution, began to fracture under the pressure. The tension wasn't merely emotional, it was political, generational, and deeply symbolic. William wasn't just blocking Andrew from a ceremony, he was rewriting the rules of who belongs, who leads, and who gets left behind in the new era of the monarchy. And then came the twist no one expected, a last-minute call from the king, sparking a decision that would deepen the family divide forever. When King Charles didn't show up for his grandson's confirmation, speculation went into overdrive. But insiders now reveal that Charles's absence was not due to illness or travel, it was a strategic silence, meant to avoid the storm between his son and brother. Charles had every intention of attending. The date had been circled in royal calendars for months. His staff had even coordinated with Kensington Palace to arrange a quiet entrance and brief post-ceremony appearance. But in the final 48 hours, everything changed. Andrew's last-ditch effort to appeal directly to the king had not just complicated the situation, it had ignited it. Advisors warned that his presence, or even a neutral stance, would be interpreted as tacit approval of Andrew's return to public life. Camilla, always watching the long game, allegedly counseled her husband in hushed tones to stay away. She knew the headlines that would follow. She understood how fragile the monarchy's image had become. The Queen Consort's words carried weight. If you go, you make this a sideshow. If you stay away, you keep control. Charles found himself in an impossible position. On one side, a disgraced brother pleading for a place at the family table once more. On the other, a son fiercely trying to cleanse the crown of any remaining stains. Those who know the king best say he was torn not just by duty, but by heartbreak. Loyalty to family had always been his private creed, but loyalty to the institution had now become his public obligation. Ultimately, he chose the latter. Aides close to the situation would later say, he chose the crown over kinship. That sentence would echo through royal chambers for days. William, for his part, was said to be disappointed, but unsurprised. He had learned long ago not to rely on his father for moral clarity in moments of tension. The king's withdrawal may have preserved the monarchy's neutrality, but to William, it felt like yet another retreat, a missed opportunity to stand firm when it mattered most. Still, he didn't allow it to overshadow the ceremony. Instead, he focused on George, who, in his youthful innocence, asked a simple question that broke hearts behind closed doors. "Where's Grandpapa?" It was whispered that Catherine had to excuse herself when he said it, not because it disrupted the ceremony, but because it reminded everyone how deeply personal this power struggle had become. Charles's absence was more than just a physical one, it was symbolic, a silent void that spoke volumes. The space he left behind forced others to step forward, to fill the emotional vacuum that now defined the monarchy's most intimate moments. There would be no pictures of grandfather and grandson, no whispered congratulations from a reigning king, only the quiet knowledge that Charles had chosen distance over confrontation, and in doing so, created a space that someone else, someone unexpected, was now ready to step into. As Charles distanced himself, Princess Anne stepped forward with a quiet intervention, one that would shift the emotional balance of the entire family. Known for her no-nonsense demeanor, Princess Anne took a rare emotional stand. What she said to King Charles behind closed doors left the room in stunned silence and marked a turning point in the family's inner war. For decades, Anne has stood as the monarchy's most steadfast pillar, unshaken by scandal, unmoved by theatrics. But in the days leading up to George's confirmation, even she reached her limit. Sources reveal a heated and deeply personal exchange between Anne and her brother, the king, in a private study at Balmoral. The meeting, initially intended to discuss ceremonial logistics, quickly veered off course. Anne reportedly looked Charles in the eye and delivered a line that sliced through the royal formality like a blade. "You can't protect him anymore." That wasn't a suggestion. It was a verdict, one that carried the full weight of decades of loyalty, sacrifice, and unflinching duty. Palace aides, who have never known Anne to speak out emotionally, were stunned by the conviction in her voice. For her, This wasn't just about Andrew. It was about the survival of the monarchy's moral spine. She had watched the family weather crises before, but this was different. Andrew wasn't a rogue tabloid headline. He was a threat to everything the next generation represented, and Anne had chosen her side. If Andrew was allowed to attend George's confirmation, she made it clear she would not. No ceremony, no photograph, no presents. A symbolic absence from the woman who never missed an official duty. The palace took her seriously. Everyone always takes Anne seriously, especially when she breaks tradition. Behind this bold stance lay a quietly growing alliance, one between Anne and Catherine. Once distant by role and temperament, the two had, over the past few years, grown close through mutual respect and shared conviction. Anne admired Catherine's restraint, her control, and above all, her strength. And Catherine found in Anne a quiet force of reassurance. But it was George who became the unexpected bridge between them. The Queen's alleged will, according to a palace insider, named Anne not just as a custodian of royal duty, but as George's spiritual guardian, a title that carried no legal weight but bound Anne emotionally to the boy's journey. She took that role seriously, perhaps more seriously than even Charles could have predicted. Anne's intervention changed the atmosphere. What had previously been a strategic debate between monarch and heir had now become a moral reckoning. It was no longer just William demanding Andrew's exclusion. It was Anne threatening to shatter the family's carefully maintained facade if the king didn't act decisively. That kind of pressure is rare, but when it comes from the Princess Royal, it can't be ignored. For Charles, the message landed hard. For William, it was a rare moment of reinforcement, and for Andrew, it was the beginning of the end. But the final nail in the coffin came not from Anne, nor Charles, but from Prince George himself, in a moment no one expected. What does a child understand of scandal? Apparently, more than we think. In a moment that stunned even senior royals, Prince George made a small but powerful gesture that echoed throughout the palace and left no doubt where he stood. It began quietly, with a question behind closed doors. Days before the ceremony, while seated with his parents during final preparations, George reportedly asked, "Will Uncle Andrew be there?" The room went still, not because of the name, but because of what followed. When William gently asked why, George's response was devastating in its simplicity. "I don't want him to be." No tantrum. No confusion. Just a quiet clarity from a boy already carrying the weight of his future. Those present said Catherine's face fell immediately. Later that evening, she was seen excusing herself from a planning session, eyes red, lips trembling. It was the raw heartbreak of a mother realizing her son had already begun to grasp the cracks beneath the royal surface. William, known for protecting his children from palace politics, was visibly shaken. But instead of shielding George from the truth, he leaned into it. He made his decision not as a prince, but as a father. And that decision, insiders now confirm, was not just rooted in public relations, it was rooted in a promise that George's upbringing would be different, that he would grow up in a royal family that faced its ghosts rather than burying them. "I'm honoring my son's wishes," William told one aide. And with that, the last barrier standing between Andrew and the ceremony collapsed. Staff at Windsor described George in the days leading up to the confirmation as unusually focused, reserved even, not withdrawn, but thoughtful, as if aware that something far greater than his own milestone was unfolding around him. One insider called him serious beyond his years. Another noted, "He knows the weight he carries, and he's already learning how to use it." During the ceremony itself, it said that George included a personal line in his speech, one not written by advisors, but added by him the night before. It referenced truth and integrity, and though subtle, it did not go unnoticed. For those who knew what had transpired behind the scenes, it was a message as loud as any royal proclamation. And then came the moment that will never be seen by the public. No photographs released, no official caption, but witnessed by just a handful of attendees. As the service ended, George reportedly walked straight to Princess Anne, reached out, and embraced her. It was brief, it was quiet, but those in attendance say it brought tears to Anne's eyes. The gesture spoke volumes. Of loyalty, of gratitude, and of a young heir already forming alliances of his own. As emotions swelled inside the chapel, outside forces were watching closely, especially Prince Harry, who had his own reaction to the drama unfolding in Windsor. From across the Atlantic, Prince Harry watched the headlines roll in. But what many didn't expect was the deeply personal reaction he shared with a close friend leaked just days after the ceremony. For all the distance, both emotional and geographical, Harry has never stopped paying attention to what happens inside the House of Windsor. And this time, the story cut deeper than most. When reports emerged that Prince William had formally blocked Prince Andrew from attending George's confirmation, Harry's response was quietly captured in a private message later leaked to a London journalist. "I'm shocked," he wrote, but not surprised. Those 5 words weren't meant for public consumption, but once they surfaced, they reignited questions about how Harry truly views the institution he stepped away from. Meghan, too, reportedly weighed in. According to one mutual contact, she had simply said, "This was always coming." It wasn't bitterness, it was inevitability. The fall of Andrew, the hardening of William, the rise of George, it was all part of a slow-motion reckoning the Sussexes had long predicted. But Harry's reaction went beyond commentary. He reportedly told a friend that William's move wasn't just about protecting George, it was about protecting the legacy he himself would inherit. This wasn't about loyalty, Harry allegedly said. It was about legacy. And I get that. Despite their very public estrangement and the cavernous divide that now separates the brothers, Harry made it clear that, on this matter, he agreed with William. Andrew, he believes, has no place in the future the monarchy must now defend. The scandal wasn't just a public relations disaster, it was a moral collapse. And while Harry may no longer walk the corridors of Buckingham Palace, he still understands the weight of what it means to bear that name. What followed next surprised even palace aides. A private call between Harry and Catherine was confirmed by multiple sources close to the family. The call, while not warm, was described as tense but civil. It was the first direct communication between them in months. No apology, no reconciliation. But, according to insiders, there was a shared acknowledgement of the storm their children were now caught within. Harry, it seems, was deeply moved by George's quiet resistance. It struck a nerve. He reportedly told a confidant, "I see myself in him. I see the pressure, the silence, the impossible decisions, but he stood his ground, and that matters." For Harry, who had once begged for the royal family to see his pain, George's gesture was not just bold, it was redemptive. Still, the moment was bittersweet. Watching from afar, Harry couldn't help but reflect on what could have been. A shared milestone. A moment of unity. Instead, he was left to witness the monarchy fracture further, even as his own son, Archie, remained an ocean away from the institution he'd been born into. And yet, even in that distance, Harry couldn't escape the truth. Royal blood doesn't cool with time, it simmers. And whether you're in Windsor or Montecito, it still finds a way to pull you back in. But while Harry grappled with past wounds, Andrew was plotting his next move, one that could reignite the entire royal firestorm. Banished from the chapel, publicly humiliated, and privately fuming Prince Andrew is not going quietly. New leaks suggest he's preparing to retaliate, and what he's threatening to reveal could shake the monarchy to its core. Stripped of status, shut out of ceremony, and now the subject of palace-wide silence, Prince Andrew has found himself cornered in a way he never imagined. And when a royal feels cornered, the reaction is rarely quiet. Sources close to York's inner circle confirm that in the aftermath of his exclusion from George's confirmation, Andrew convened a private series of meetings with legal experts and strategic communications advisors. The gatherings, reportedly held at Royal Lodge and off-site properties owned by close friends, were described not as consultations but as war councils. The tone? Retaliatory. The goal? Unclear, but increasingly ominous. Those present say Andrew felt not just betrayed, but erased. And in response, he's now considering a move no royal has dared to make since Edward VIII, an exposure of what lies beneath the crown. Whispers are growing louder about a trove of old letters, some allegedly written between Andrew and the late Prince Philip during the height of the scandal's fallout. These letters, according to insiders, are not simply paternal advice or sympathy. They reportedly contain explosive reflections on the monarchy's double standards, internal power plays, and private conversations about who was truly pulling the strings during the Queen's final years. If released, such documents would not only implicate several senior royals, but would destabilize the carefully managed narrative of unity and control that William has spent years crafting. More disturbingly, palace aides are increasingly convinced that Andrew is preparing what some have called a final statement, a last, desperate attempt to reclaim his version of the truth before he's buried completely in royal obscurity. This statement, rumoured to be part memoir, part reckoning, is said to detail conversations never meant for the public and events that contradict official palace timelines. Whether it will ever see the light of day remains to be seen, but the threat alone has triggered a full-scale internal review of Andrew's communications. Multiple sources confirm that his emails, calls, and visits are now under close observation by royal handlers. Adding to the instability are rumours of a secret meeting between Andrew, Sarah Ferguson, and their daughter Beatrice. Held away from prying eyes, the meeting reportedly centred around legacy, reputation, and what Beatrice herself called the point of no return. Beatrice, long seen as the bridge between scandal and salvation, now finds herself trapped between loyalty to her father and a monarchy that has all but disowned him. Her role in the weeks ahead may prove decisive, but for now, she remains silent. The palace, meanwhile, is on high alert. For the first time in decades, the threat to the monarchy isn't coming from the outside, it's erupting from within its own bloodline. And no PR campaign, no carefully worded denial, can stop what Andrew is now capable of unleashing. As the royal household braces for another wave of scandal, one thing is clear: Prince William is no longer the heir waiting quietly. He's rewriting the rules of royal power. The man once mocked as a reluctant royal has transformed into the monarchy's most strategic force. With one decision, Prince William has drawn a new battle line in the House of Windsor, and he's showing the world he'll defend the future crown at all costs. The confirmation may have been for his son, but it was Prince William who emerged as the true architect of this new royal order. In just a few decisive weeks, he not only removed Prince Andrew from public visibility, but redefined the very fabric of royal participation. No longer is inclusion in royal events guaranteed by birthright. Now, it must be earned through integrity. Those closest to William say this was never about personal vendettas. It was about setting a precedent. And with this move, he's shown that no title, no lineage, no whispered promise from the past can outweigh the values he intends to instill at the core of the monarchy's future. Behind the scenes, his influence is spreading quickly. Royal watchers and palace insiders alike have noted the subtle but undeniable shift in power dynamics. William's inner circle, once overshadowed by the king's traditional advisors, is now the nucleus of royal decision-making. Meetings that would once be routed through Clarence House are increasingly taking place at Kensington. Senior aides, some of whom served under Queen Elizabeth, are quietly migrating toward William's camp. There's a new energy around him. Strategic, streamlined, unapologetic. And standing just as firmly beside him is Catherine, not as an ornamental consort, but as an equal force in shaping the path ahead. Together, they've become a formidable political unit, balancing tradition with reform, dignity with decisiveness. One of William's first changes? A new internal policy dictating who may and may not attend future royal religious events. No longer symbolic ceremonies for extended relatives to reclaim relevance. These occasions will now be tightly controlled, reserved only for those actively contributing to the Crown's mission. It's a quiet but profound shift, one that signals a break from the past and a warning for the future. The monarchy is no longer a sanctuary for those who refuse to evolve. It is a machine of purpose, led by a prince who has waited long enough. King Charles, though still formally sovereign, is said to be feeling the chill of this transition. Sources close to the palace have described him as increasingly sidelined, as decisions large and small are filtered through William's expanding influence. Some courtiers whisper that the king is aware of this shift but lacks the energy or the will to resist it. And while Charles still wears the crown, it's William's moral authority that is beginning to shape the public's perception of monarchy itself. Through all of this, one truth has become impossible to ignore. Prince William is no longer bound by the old rules of blood loyalty. He's setting new terms. Family ties will no longer protect those who threaten the crown's integrity. And with every action he takes, he is not just defending the throne for George, he's defining the kingdom that boy will one day inherit. The ceremony is over, but the consequences are just beginning, and the British monarchy may never look the same again. Thanks for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and we will see you in next one.